In the Wild West world of podcasting, there is one podcast that is authentic and genuine and continues to stand tall in its originality. Based on a passion for his guests, their work, and his love of podcasting, Derek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast get amazing, diverse, unique guests found nowhere else. The variety and quality are endless. There is something for everyone. Derek Thomas is the hero you deserve. He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector. Welcome to Monday Morning Critic Podcast. Here is Derek Thomas.
Yeah. Some guy called over here, a doctor. He's looking for a driver. You interested?
I am not a medical doctor. I'm a musician. I'm about to embark on a concert tour in the Deep South. What other experience do you have?
Public relations.
Do you foresee any issues in working for a black man?
You in the Deep South? There's going to be problems.
Promise me you're going to write me a letter.
I promise. Tell me that don't smell good.
I've never had fried chicken in my life.
You people love the fried chicken.
You have a very narrow assessment of me, Tony.
Yeah, right? I'm good.
You will be interacting with some of the wealthiest people in the country. It is my feeling that your diction could use some finessing.
Fana, but why are you breaking my balls?
Because you can do better, Mr. Balalonga.
Dear Dolores.
I saw Dr. Shirley play the piano. He's like a genius, I think.
Come on, take it easy.
I prefer not to get grease on my blanket.
Ooh, I'm gonna get grease on my blanket.
This gentleman says that I'm not permitted to dine here.
I'm afraid not. How does he smile and shake their hands like that?
Because it takes courage to change people's hearts. What are you doing?
A letter.
May I? Dear Dolores, sometimes you remind me of a house. You know this is pathetic, right? Put this down. The distance between us is breaking my spirit. Falling in love with you
Was the easiest thing I have ever done. P.S. Kiss the kids.
that's like clanging a cowbell at the end of Shostakovich's 7.
That's good.
It's perfect, Tony.
Come on, get out now.
You never win with violence. You only win when you maintain your dignity.
You don't know your own people. You, Mr. Big Shot, doing concerts for rich people.
So if I'm not black enough, and if I'm not white enough, then tell me, Tony, what am I?
Anyone can sound like Beethoven. But your music, what you do, only you can do that.
What do we do about the bones?
We do this.
Pick it up, Tony.
Squirrels would eat it anyway.
Pick it up.
My next guest is an actor, musician, and teacher that is absolutely wonderful in the iconic Green Book. Please welcome Dimiter Marinov. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Dimiter, I have to say, Zadastri Dobre Den Kaksi.
Very good. Even the accent is kind of pretty good, too.
Thank you. I worked on that, and I have to say, because my mother was born in Poland, I've said this before in the podcast, my mother was born in Poland, and I'm fluent in Polish, and it helps. Some of the words are very similar, like dobre, which is like, I think good, is the same in Polish, I think.
Yeah. Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry, look at you. Look at you. That's great. Yes, yes. So it's a very beautiful language, and one I feel like that I'd like to learn one day. I was just doing research on that part of it. It's really just a beautiful language, Dimiter.
And once you know Polish, it's not difficult for all the Slavic languages, including Russian, Slovenian, Slovakian, Bulgarian, Serbian, Croatian. They're all Macedonian, all in the same group. So it's not that difficult. It's just different words, phrases that have been influenced by the neighboring countries. And that's all it is. Like Bulgaria has a lot of Turkish words, Greek words.
Yep.
The Russians have a lot of Nordic from Norway and Sweden. Poland, same way. It's just influence from the history. But the Slavic language is a base. It's all the same.
Yeah, very, very well said. Looking at your life, and you and I have been communicating. I have to say, age 11, you're this wonderful classic violinist. And then, whenever I'm incorrect, please let me know here, because I'm just trying to paint a little picture for those listening. At age 14, you get a small part in a theater. I want to say it's in Sofia, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Your experience and everything about that night just kind of blew you away. Is that fair, Dimiter, to say it that way?
Yes, I mean, by that time, age of 14, I didn't think of anything else but violin. That was my future, according to everything I believed, everything I known. And actually, that was the summer before I traveled for the very first time to United States, 1979, to perform and play at the United Nations Circle Hall in New York, conducted by Lenard Bernstein. And that summer, my adopted mother was a big fan of this little non-professional theater group. So they needed a young kid, teenager, who can play violin. So they hooked me up into the play. I never been in theater play. I never knew what to do. I had no idea. So we had few rehearsals, and all I do is I have two scenes in one line. I walk on stage, it's dark, lights come up, I'm playing, then my mom says something in the play, and then I answer, and that's it. And then the second scene, they have visitors, and I just serenade for a good 2 minutes, and that's all it was. But you don't get a real idea what's going on until the actual show begins. And in the opening night, when that darkness came in, I walk on the stage, everything rehearsed, I'm ready, got my violin up, and the lights came up. I've never seen the lights before during rehearsals. And this time, those lights slowly kind of coming up, and you see this dust all over the stage, dust into the lights. And then the audience, and all you see in the audience is like white eyes and kind of like people there, but they're silhouettes. And here I am, and all of a sudden, something down inside my stomach just flipped, literally flipped. And the next thing I knew was the stage manager going, play, go play. I was obviously frozen. So I start playing, but all my hands are getting sweaty. I am shaking. And when my mother comes on stage and says whatever she says, and I have to answer, I looked at her and I had no clue what I had to say. And that was it. And then we did, I believe, 5 shows. I explained what the situation was. They were all laughing, but that was the pivot moment. And from this moment on, the violin, regardless of all my endeavors before, it was on the back burner. Acting was the only thing that was all over me. And I wanted to learn. I wanted to get involved. And in a communist country, it's not that easy.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, it's funny that you said, because I listened to you and you're talking about your career, and when I was researching your life, boy, you're not somebody that feels sorry for himself. You go after things, and when a lot of people would kind of, because we all have ups and downs in our life, I feel like yours might have been a bit more radical in a way. But you save your lunch money at 15 to pay for an acting coach out of your own pocket, which is amazing to me. You're chopping wood, you're shoveling, whatever you could do to pay for an acting coach. Pretty amazing.
Yes,
at 15, yes, that's pretty amazing.
I even volunteer at that same theater to sweep the floors and help whatever I can help, so I can get a few more extra cents. Because back in those days, our money in our country was pretty much nothing. But saving, that means you live without something else. It's not like saving in what people understand today. Let's say you make $100, you save $20.
Right.
Well, I'm making $2, and my acting coach is $5. So I need to not save, but I just have to not buy my breakfast or not buy my lunch, or pick from somebody else that didn't eat at all. So I can, oh, you don't want this? Oh, can I finish it? So basically, that was quite a period of time that I had to do all this in order to accomplish a dream.
Yeah, Dimiter, is there a part of you though? So you attend you get your master's degree at the Bulgarian National Academy for Theater and Film. Is there a part of you, because you had some things happen before that, where you just want to get away from Bulgaria, just kind of leave for a while, kind of collect your thoughts? Or, I mean, you're clearly passionate about your heritage. I get that, but is there a part of you that just wants to get away from it, or are you like, you know what, acting is too important for me? You know, how is your mindset at that point, at getting your master's degree?
Well, I had a really hard time entering the academy per se, because back in those days, you cannot just sign in or just take tests. It was rounds, 6 rounds for a month, and disqualification rounds. We were 1,400 people for 27 spots.
Wow.
And it was extreme. It's only one academy in the whole country. Wow. That's all it is. We're 8 million people country, small country. So the problem that I had was when I was 18, I applied as before military. Back then, it was mandatory. You're going into the Red Army once you turn 18, no matter what. But the academy will have spots for 6 males that can apply before going into the army, and they can keep your spot if you get in. So what happened? I was first on the list. Mm-hmm. I got in. I went into the army. Year after, I was already in the army. The terrible thing happened. I got arrested. I was trialed in a military court, and I was thrown in political prison for 2.5 years. Mm. And once I came out, I was literally enemy of the state, political prisoner, so nobody will give me a job, and the academy disqualified me. So I had nothing looking forward. Now, I will never enter this academy. I will never probably be an actor until this very interesting person we met literally on the street. He is basically the director and the one who runs a small theater in a small town by the Danube River in the Vidin, the city of Vidin in Bulgaria, mm-hmm. and on the border with former Yugoslavia and Romania. So he said, why don't you come to my theater? I'll give you a spot as just the beginner, and we give it a try, and I'll pay you so much. And that's how it started. Long story short, 3 years later, I conclude my application for a professional actor without a university degree. And I was recognized all around the country with winning the 2 best young actor in the Bulgarian National Theatre drama.
Wow.
And then the Academy, for some reason, came around and said, you know what, we will give you an opportunity to apply one more time. And that was the only time, because you obviously are extraordinary and you're really following your dreams. We feel like, So I got in, I applied, and I was, again, first on the chart. I entered, and that's how my acting professional academic career began.
That's wonderful. And it's always that one person that reaches out, that gets you back on track again, which is pretty amazing. Is there anger when you do that 2.5 years? And you don't have to answer this. We can pass this. But, I'm looking at your life because you have this spot held for you. Is there anger when you do those 2.5 years? Do you feel like it's a lost 2.5 years, or do you feel like it's something that was beyond your control, Dimiter?
Well, Derek, to be honest with you, that's a very long conversation itself. But the bottom line is, yes, there was a lot of frustration. I was only 19 years old, a lot of anger. But the anger was not the fact that I was thrown in prison. The anger is towards the ones who did it.
Right.
In a sense, the system, the communist country, the communist party, and everything they believe and they did to us is what angers me. We had no freedom, as you know, behind the Iron Curtain, that a lot of young people nowadays have no clue what that means. Mm-hmm. But yes, that was my anger there, because all I wanted is to go to the West and have a good life and freedom and do what I'm good to do and test myself. No was not allowed.
Yeah, and you're not.
When it comes down to the law, I actually, even the judge at the time, the military court, were surprised that I plead guilty. And they said, why are you pleading guilty? And I said, because this is the law of the land. This is the law of this country I broke. So I deserve to be punished when it comes down to the law. And I never, ever, even after the communists left Bulgaria in 92, when I went back, I never, ever said a word. I never said I was repressed. Everybody knew I was in prison, but I never manifest my past and saying, oh, see, they torture me. They did all this to me. Poor me. Because a lot of people did, actually. And they were greatly rewarded with money and all kinds of stuff. But to me, in my mind, is I broke the law of the land. So I paid for it. Now, was that right or wrong? It's not for me to judge. It's for everybody else to understand that when you live in a land in a certain country and you want to be there and live there and you break the law, you take the consequences. Right. And if you don't like it, if you don't want it, leave, go somewhere else, do something else. And then you see what works. Yeah. But anger was definitely because of the system, not because of the punishment.
Yeah, and thank you for your honesty in that. And again, you don't let anything keep you down. In 1990, you travel Europe, Canada, U.S. for those listening, performing as an actor, and I want to say some singing or music. And your last performance, I think, is Tennessee, and that's when you kind of a political refugee, which kind of is the bridge to get you you're talking about going west and doing your thing. That was kind of the beginning of it, right, Dimiter? The political,
yes.
Yeah.
That was the great opportunity when I joined the Mystery Voices of Bulgaria, pretty famous, and it was a theater show with music and singing. So we did all those tours all over Europe and Canada, and the United States was Knoxville, Tennessee, the World Festival they used to have under University of Tennessee. So what I did, basically, I had a little backpack with my most important things and my violin, and literally I ran from the airport. I jumped in a cab. I spoke no English at all. And one of my colleagues in the troop, I asked them, how do you say this? How do you say this? So I got those few words. So once I jumped in the yellow cab, I had a $50 bill. Altogether, I had $112. That's all I had to my name at the moment.
Jeez.
And I just showed him the $50 bill, and the only thing I said was downtown. And he just took off. Yeah. Later on, I found out it was only $12 trip, but he took my $50.
Yeah. And something, it's like, again, the beginning of your goal and your dream to move west. It's kind of a mixed blessing, right? Because you kind of have this weight off your shoulders. You're starting your dream, but then, like you mentioned, there's no money. There's not many friends at the time. I would imagine you're in a new place. You had to learn English, which is another thing. So you had to overcome some obstacles here. So yes, it's a blessing what happened to you, but there's also some things that we have to address, and you clearly did it. But was that a very tough time for you, Dimiter, that whole process?
Well, I was on the street all by myself, no friends, no relatives, no English, just those few dollars in my pocket. So I figured the only thing I can do is just go to the main square, like it's in Europe. That's all I knew. Found the fountain where when all the people are, and just play violin and try to survive that way, make some money, hopefully, and find a place to stay. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in the United States, where the fountain is not downtown. And I was there for 2 days all by myself playing violin in the empty square. Then I realized it's the business district. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
So, and what happened day 3, a television station came to ask for an interview with me because I happened to be the first live musician on the streets of Knoxville. So they wanted to plug in for the 5 o'clock news, but I didn't speak any English. I didn't know what to say. So they brought an interpreter from German, which is a language I speak. after they ask me what country I'm from. So they start naming countries. And when they say Germany, I said, yeah. So they brought this elder lady. And after they did the interview, I was on they just left. And then I was on the news, and a family in Knoxville saw me on the news and sent their son with this girl from University of Tennessee that spoke German to invite me to lunch. And they really wanted to help me.
Oh, that's great.
I was shocked.
Wow.
I don't know these people. I have no idea. I was kind of scared, actually. Derek, honestly, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, gosh, KGB, they got me. But at this point, I was already had my life on the line already. And I said, I have nothing to lose anyway. And simply put, Mike and Peggy Shirley from Knoxville, Tennessee, he's a building contractor and very well put together family. They invited me to their house, and they hire a lawyer, an interpreter. They pay for everything just to help me get on my feet. Mind you, I'm 25 years old, Eastern European. They don't know anything about me. They picking me up from the street and giving me and entering their home. And they have no clue. We cannot even communicate. And then literally a few months later, because I had my papers, I was traveling with diplomatic passport, and I have 1 year permit to work in the United States. I was legally in the United States. So all they have to do, we need to apply for the green card and all that. But as a political refugee, I'm going in front of a judge back in those days. It's not just going through immigration. So we went to court and everything recording. And I swear, tell the truth, nothing but the truth. Although all the paperwork was ready when the family, they had no clue about me much. I was studying English for 2 months like crazy, night and day, with a Russian, Bulgarian, English dictionary. And I did not even need the interpreter 2 months later. I spoke enough English to go through the interview. But the shocking moment came when they found out that I was born on October 6, 1964. Well, Derek, what happened was, they had a son, elder son, who dies in motorcycle accident literally 7 years prior to my arrival, who was born on October 6, 1964.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's unbelievable.
And as they've been Christians, kind of people of faith, at that moment, they really, I mean, there was a cold sweat. They were shaking. They were crying. And they say, God sent you here to replace our son. And from this moment on, I lived with this family for 3 years in Tennessee until 1993, when a dear friend of mine I grew up with finally came to reunite with his family in San Diego, California. His mom was immigrant here for many, many, many years. And he called me and said, I'm here. And because I wanted to follow my dream as an actor, Knoxville, Tennessee is not a place to be an actor, either New York or LA at the time. So my plans were to go to New York. But I'm thespian by heart. Stage. I love it. And when he called me, I said, oh, San Diego. I look at the map. Oh, it's right by LA. Oh, there we go. So I had a Volkswagen Bug that I bought myself for $300, and I repaired it myself. And I loaded my stuff in October of 1993, and I drove from Knoxville all the way to San Diego on the famous Route 66 because I wanted to see the whole Route 66.
Wow.
And it took me about 5.5 days with the Volkswagen Bug. And I landed in San Diego, and that's where my new California life begun.
Wow. And do you see the irony of the last name of the people that took you into, by the way, Shirley? I mean, how that plays later on into the Green Book, Dr. Shirley. I just think
shocking.
It's those little weird things. Do you still have contact with the Shirleys? Do you view them as
yes.
family? Okay, great.
Absolutely. They're my American family. And not only what we did when our first son was born, my wife really wanted a Bulgarian name, so she picked the name. And then when the second son was born, 7 years later, I said, well, it has to be named after somebody in your family. Do you have any man who is like, that you can name your son, maybe your dad or your uncle? She said, nope. And was her idea, actually. We named our son after Mike Shirley. Because what happened was that this man was 19 years old when he joined, 18 years old when he went to Vietnam. He's a Purple Heart. He is a veteran of the war. Then he came by himself, started his business, married at 19, and with his love of his life, they built their life together. Then they lost their first son, and their second son announced at age of 19 that he's gay, and he moved away. So this man who saved my life and gave me the new American life is left without any legacy. So I felt at least to say thank you. And that's exactly what we did. In May, my son was born, my second son. We named him Michael. And on Thanksgiving that same year, we flew without them knowing all the way to Tennessee, and we ring the bell on Thanksgiving evening, and we walk into the house, and I said, Mike, that's your grandson, Michael. Thank you for being my family.
It's very sweet. And you mentioned your VW, you drove cross country in 93. Again, you're taking odd jobs, dishwasher, handyman, whatever you could do. You eventually come into owning your own business, which is amazing in itself. Your acting career officially begins in 99, right? And talk about that for a second, Dimiter, the acting in San Diego, 90. I think it was a theater in San Diego.
Yeah, the Lyceum Theater, San Diego Repertory Theatre.
So we're steadily making our way to your dream, to where you want it to be, and things are going great at this point, right? We're at 99, we're doing great, and you're where you want to be.
Well, that was the theater. That's actually very famous theater where Whoopi Goldberg started her career in 1977 in The Christmas Carol.
Wow, very cool.
And that's the show I started my career in, A Christmas Carol, as the ghost of Christmas past. And it worked great because with my accent was just perfect. But from this moment on, soon as I started in 1999, for the next 7 years, I played one of the biggest houses. I had an equity contract. I became a professional theater actor. Never thought of film, never thought of television. I play La Jolla, I play the Old Globe, the Griffin in LA, all over the place. And in San Francisco, the Marin Theater, the Academy, all over. And I was so proud of what I have accomplished as an actor until 2007, when I won the big award for Most Working Foreign Actor of KPBS. It was kind of great, but that was this moment in my life when we needed a turnaround in the family. Our first son was born then, and I took a little adventure down to Costa Rica, where I started a restaurant and a motel, and for 2.5 years we lived in Costa Rica.
Jeez.
And then in 2009, in the summer of 2009, my wife and I said, okay, the son has to go to school now. In Costa Rica, all the schools are Catholic schools, unless you go to a private. But we were ready to go home. So I sold the restaurant and the motel. We returned back to California in Carlsbad. And that was the moment when a dear friend of mine, a Bulgarian actor who was already in the Hollywood scene, literally started pushing me so hard, said, you need to get your face out there. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm 45 years old. I mean, are you kidding me? Hollywood, me? He said, well, that face. So he he guided me what I need to do. And back in those days, we're talking 2009, he printed for me all the agencies in Los Angeles County. And then I do those yellow envelopes with a headshot that he made for me. I had no clue. And resume that he put together for me that I had nothing on screen. Everything was theater. And I sent it to 97 agencies. Within 2 weeks, I had 17 interviews.
Wow. That's
and great. I was shocked. And then I had quite a few proposals. And then finally, I met with, at the time, LW1, which is Wilhelmina. Now it's Aperture Talent Agency and Wilhelmina. Mm-hmm. And the one thing they shocked me, because that was probably the 12th or the 13th interview, can't remember exactly. When I entered, there were 4 agents. They dropped their job. We went into a conference room. We sat down, and my interview was 1 hour and 7 minutes. They did not ask me one single professional question. All the questions were about me as a person, how I, like we're talking with you right now, right. How I grew up, how I came to the United States, mm-hmm. all that stuff. I was so touched that those people are interested in me as a person. And in the end, they asked me, so do you have any questions? I said, well, why didn't you ask me any professional question? They say, Dimiter, we know you're an actor. We know you are a great actor. What we're interested in is you as a person at that age, starting so late, like Gene Hackman.
That's right.
We wanted to know who we're dealing with. And we want to represent you. That was on Tuesday. I will never forget. The first week of September, on Tuesday. On Thursday was my very first audition for Nikon commercial with Ashton Kutcher. I've never been to auditions. I have no clue what's required. My friend gave me some pointers. I walked in. Long story short, I booked the commercial. My second audition was the day after, on Friday, for the film, a major support role, Act of Valor. And literally within those 2 first auditions, I booked both of them.
Wow.
And that's how my career started in Hollywood. And that was it. And that was it. From then on, you can look at my resume on IMDb and you will see. But I was fortunate to be with a great team, amazing team of agents. And literally, I didn't audition as often as most actors do because I'm very specific, and especially with my accent and looks and age group. But the way they guide me and the way they helped me was priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it's amazing how many people believed in you and helped you along the way. And I wanted to fast forward a little bit to 2018, which is Green Book, which is easily, I mean, I know you're not big on like favorite, tops, but I have to say for me, it's one of the most rewatchable movies I've ever seen. For those listening, 5 Academy Award nominations, won 3, Best Picture, Best Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor, Mahershala Ali. I think Vigo should have won, but that's a story for another time. I as much as I love Rami Malek and as much as I love Bohemian Rhapsody, Vigo I thought was ignored immensely. I know he was nominated. It's a movie that was just shot out of a cannon. People love it. I had Nick Vallelonga, as I told you on the show. I told him 2 months before the award show he was going to win Best Picture and Best Screenplay, and I stand behind that. But the most important thing is you are the first. I'm going to bounce around a little bit here for a second, if you don't mind, Dimiter. The first thing is you're the first Bulgarian on the red carpet, I want to say, at the Academy. Is that a true statement?
Absolutely correct. And with the Oscar in my hand in the big, beautiful Dolby stage, given by the most beautiful woman in the world. And actually, the Oscar I held in my hand was Jim Burke's, which Jim Burke is the lead producer of Green Book. Mm-hmm. And when we came on stage, I had no idea what to do. So I went all the way in the back. I was so overwhelmed. And all of a sudden, Jim Burke is right next to me. And there is this beautiful, gorgeous, gracious, in this gorgeous pink dress, the pretty woman that it still looks the same to me. And Julia just about to hand him the Oscar. He looks at me and says, "Give it to him. He deserves to hold it."
Wow.
I was shocked. And she handed to me and said, I agree. Your line was my favorite. Say it again. So I told her the line, genius is not enough. It takes courage to change people's hearts. And she gave me the Oscar with the envelope. And that was the moment when Jim Burke walked forward and started talking. And that's the moment when Mahershala grabbed me and pulled me all the way to the front with Viggo and Linda. And that was the moment when it cannot be explained, Derek, what it meant to me from a communist child, orphan, then adopted, then prison, then immigration, all by myself, all alone. And all of a sudden, here I am, putting a crown of all my dreams come true within less than 20 years in the United States. I was literally, I had no words. Yes, tears were rolling, heart was beating crazy. But one thing that was so incredible at this moment, honest to God, was who am I thankful for all this? First and foremost, my wife, Jennifer, who put up with me for all those years with one word when we met, before we even got married. Stop, she said, with all these businesses and work crazy 14 hours a day. Follow your dream. I will work.
Oh, wow.
She took a full-time job, working crazy so I can pursue. And she was with me day in, day out.
What a special woman. Wow.
Extraordinary.
Wow.
And then, she's from Michigan. I'm from Bulgaria. I'm 10 years older than her. We pretty much didn't even know each other. We just liked each other. And there was something really special that obviously happened. So that was the first thing in my head. Of course. The second was, who do this Oscar belongs to? My presence here belongs to. And that was the most proud moment to say that I'm holding this statue, half Bulgarian, half American. And that was the biggest moment to make my country proud, my home country, and at the same time, my adopted country. That was the biggest feel inside of me, that I've been so fortunate. Of course, I work hard for it. I never gave up on my dreams. I never in any way betray my beliefs. But still, when you focus and you work hard and you know that what you want to do is the right thing, not only for you, but for others, then there's no way not to win. There's no way not to get forward and accomplish what you dream to do. And at this point of my life, that was the moment where I will never, ever forget.
Yeah, and you stole one of my questions because, I was just trying to put myself in your shoes, right? So you've had this unbelievable journey up to this point. I mean, so you're sitting I'm picturing you at the premiere, right? The first time you saw the movie. There's got to be two things in your head. Well, there's many things in your head, I'm sure, but there's two things that I was thinking of that are really primary things, right? First, you must be excited to see the final copy of the film. I mean, that's one. But two, you kind of touched on this, is the fact that all you went through your entire life, and you're at the essentially the movie of the year, and that was the right call. I mean, so you must have a bunch of things swirling around in your head, but is it almost overwhelming for you at that point, Dimiter? Or are you like, not that I can't believe it, because you deserve to be there, but you're excited to see the film, but it's almost like a testament to all your hard work to where you're sitting at that point.
Well, it was crazy because the first time I saw the full film was in Canada at the TIFF Festival in Canada.
Yep.
And after the film was over, we all go on stage. I was bawling in tears. I was shaking like a leaf. And here I am, 55 years old, going crazy like a high school kid. And the first thing I did, I hugged Peter Farrelly and I said, thank you for making my dream come true. because the audition was so hard. It was so demanding. And I don't know if many of you do know that actually I was cast out. My first audition, I was not accepted. I was literally told that I'm too mature for the role, and even though I did a great job, but they going in a different direction. That was it.
Wow.
4 weeks later, my manager, Kieran Maguire, gets a phone call and from Montgomery, the casting director, and says, they want to see you again in that Green Book thing. And we had no idea what this is. There were no details provided. I said, what do you mean? They said, remember that? I said, yeah, I do remember, but they said no. He said, well, obviously they changed their mind, but now they want to hear you playing cello. And I said, well, I don't play cello. I play violin. He said, well, in the same thing? I said, totally different. It's totally different instrument. I mean, theoretically, I know everything about cello, no problem, but to play? He said, well, all they want, they might do photo drop or something, but they want to see you look professional, right? I said, well, I think I can do this. How much time I have? And he said, well, about 5 days. That was on Saturday. My older son had a soccer tournament. And I stopped watching the soccer tournament of my little son, and I started Googling. I found a cello. I rented a cello. I hired a teacher. 4 days. I took 4 lessons, 2 hours each. And honest to God, by day 2, my wife and kids left the house. They went to her aunt's house because they couldn't stand it anymore. I will get up in the morning at 7 o'clock and start bitching that cello like crazy. And the sounds were not pleasant at all, even to me. But by the end of the 5th day, the day before my audition, I can play the lead song of the film Waterboy, the cello solo.
Wow.
So when I went to even though my teacher, cello teacher, said, this is not possible, this cannot happen. And before I left to Los Angeles, I saw my teacher for 30 minutes, and I wanted her to give me a final input and feedback. She was shocked that I can pull this off in 5 days. And here was my thought, Derek. I have an opportunity. This is my life. This is how I've been doing everything in my life. I have 5 days. I know they'll do photo drop. I'm not going to play professionally cello in 5 days, but I have a chance to try. Why not? I have a chance to test myself. Why not? And that's what was in my head. Yes. If I learn it, I learn it. If I don't, photo drop. And everything you saw in the film, and actually during the audition, when Peter Farrelly said, all right, so Chris Burke wants to hear you, Chris Brown, in the composer of the film, said, well, he wants to see you, just how you hold the cello. Would you please just, and I'm entering with the cello in my audition. And I said, oh no, I'm going to play. They said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to play the Waterboy, the song I got from casting, and I learned it. They were shocked.
Wow.
So I sat down on the chair, I play my cello, and literally Chris and and Peter jump off their chairs, including Nick Valalonga, said, what did you do? And Peter said, I didn't know you played cello. I said, well, I didn't know either, but here I am. Jeez. And then we had this little conversation when they wanted to know more about me. They had kind of, before I did my acting, it was the play, then a little bit about my life, who I am as a person. And then after I did my acting, I did only one scene. And Peter Farrelly said, I got enough. That's it. And I asked, what about my second scene? He said, I don't need it, but I have a question. I said, sure. He said, Dimiter, you told us so much about your life. Those extraordinary things about your life. Seems like you're 175 years old. But tell me what is the key for your endeavors and successes and all those craziness you had? And I said to him, the little decisions in my everyday life I make with my mind. The big decisions for my life I make with my heart. That's all it is to it. Believe, because as you know, we have the term, oh, I'm sorry, I changed my mind. But you're never going to hear somebody say, oh, I'm sorry, I changed my heart.
Right.
Because we grow, we learn, we mature. Well, some of us. Or none of us. But you learn and you experience and you grow and you change. But your heart never. You're always that 14 years old with the dreams and beliefs and, of course, the excuses of the world around you. But if you really, truly talk to your heart every time you get in front of something, trust me, that will be your best of the best. Because I believe that problems, they don't come to me. They come for me so I can fight them, so I can overcome them and grow within them. That's what I believe.
Yeah, that's very special. And this movie is very special and emotional to many people, including myself. It was the last movie my father saw at a theater with my mother before he passed away. He absolutely loved it.
So.
Yeah, it's just a very special movie for a lot of reasons for me. For those listening to stories about Tony and Dr. Shirley, they're certainly the odd couple that just learned to absolutely love each other. Oleg is very, very important, especially to Vigo's character, Tony. He's a bit of a compass, a bit of a kind of reality check, I feel like. Let me ask you, so you mentioned Pete Farrelly, who just did an amazing job. One of only 5 directors to have Best Picture but not being nominated himself, which is a joke because he did such a marvelous job. He should have been nominated. So you worked with him, amazing, talented director, Mahershala Ali, Vigo, the best actors on the planet. And I get the feeling from when I hear you talk in past interviews that as great as actors as they are, that they're even better people.
Well, I have a saying. The bigger the star, the more grounded they are. Those are people who they know deep in their heart they're accomplished. They've done the hard work. And now they're not actors any longer. They're artists. And that's a big difference. And if you have a hard time on set with a star, obviously that star doesn't know he's really a star. And that's the problem most of the time. With Vigo and Mahershala, this entire process, to be honest, was not a film project. That was a friendship. It was from the very first moment we got together on set. Vigo, that mega star, came to me and hugged me and shook my hand and talked to me like he's my buddy forever. Same with Mahershala, which I just watched last year getting Oscar for Best Performing Actor of the World. Comes to me, gives me a hug, shakes my hand, and whispers in my ear, "You're going to help me with the Russian, right?" And it was shocking. And we are in this small little hotel outside New Orleans, filming on location, and Mahershala at 10 o'clock at night invites me to his room, which I didn't feel comfortable to go to. So we decided to meet downstairs in the lobby to work on the Russian.
Wow.
And here I am sitting with a person who there is no any feeling that I'm sitting in front of this giant artist. And with Vigo, actually, and most Peter and Nick, almost every night we're out in this little small shaggy bar drinking and talking and joking. And the entire film was just like a bunch of friends got together and decided to do something cool. And Peter, his way of directing, he's not directing. He's just giving you so much freedom. And he just said that. And actually something very funny, the very first scene, which was when I spy on Viggo stealing the little rock. Here I am at the caddy, sitting in the front, smoking my cigarette. Action! So thing starts moving. Viggo gets his directions. Mahershala gets his directions. Peter talks to them. He passes me and not saying a word. So this happens 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then finally, I don't know what I'm doing. And then Peter passes by and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Farrelly." He said, "Yeah, Dimiter, what's up?" I said, "Well, we're doing it already 4 times and you didn't give me any single direction." He looks at me with that big smile and goes, "I hired you, didn't I?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, do your job. You're doing great. Enjoy yourself." That was it. Yeah. And throughout the entire process, maybe once or twice, he gave me notes, but they're technical, not acting notes. And that's how he worked with everybody. Show me, propose. "Oh, I like this. All right, great, beautiful. How about, okay, nice, good, keep going." That was it.
Yeah. And yeah, you've given me so much of your time. I have a few more questions, and then I just can't thank you enough. You know what? The scene that he uses the Russian, I was watching that today. Just an absolutely wonderful scene. It's for those listening, it's the same scene moments after where Tony keeps insisting that Oleg is a kraut when he's not. He's Russian. It's a really great scene, a very believable scene. But, looking at this entire movie, I really have studied Oleg, and I really feel like he's a very important character. As I mentioned, he helps Tony on his journey. Even your reaction at Indiana when Tony slaps the stagehand, I don't know if he's a stagehand, but Tony's insisting on the Steinway, and he slaps him. And I think at that point, Oleg realizes that Tony really does care for Dr. Shirley, that he really does care for this man. There's a scene where Oleg says there's going to be a lot of ugly circumstances. You basically have to control your temper. It talks about how Dr. Shirley could have, stayed up north and been paid 3 times as much. And right. he asked for this. And then Tony asks why, and then there's a little bit of a pause. And then later in the movie, you go and talk about Nat King Cole, how he was attacked for playing quote unquote white people's music, pulled off stage, beaten. Just a beautiful, and then obviously the line of the movie, genius not enough. It takes courage to change people's hearts. Just a very powerful, like this character. I don't want to say it's minor because it's not, but it's important in a variety of ways. Am I looking at this correctly, Dimiter, the way Oleg plays out?
Yes, in many ways, Peter Farrelly, that's what he wanted. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that the whole idea of Oleg, he is basically the bouncer between the two. He's the guy who's supposed to keep Viggo in check. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, make sure Viggo doesn't do anything stupid to turn the things around. And when Oleg takes this moment and tells him, you need to control your temper, ugly things are about to happen, this is something he does on his own. And this is a very pivot moment of the whole film when, for the first time, Oleg confronts Viggo face to face. Tony, in a sense. And Tony has nothing to say. Mm. And I think that was the turning point for Tony to realize what is at stake and what actually is happening. So Oleg was this silent guy in the background, like the hawk watching over Tony nonstop to make sure the mission is accomplished.
I like that. I like how you said that. Yeah.
And also, I mean, if you read their relationship, the originals of back in the day, Oleg was actually the right-hand man of Don Shirley. They met in Leningrad Conservatory back in old Russia, which is St. Petersburg today. Mm-hmm. And they studied together. And that's why Oleg defects to United States to form that trio. And they became best of friends. And actually, Oleg had a huge deal communicating with white people at that time to arranging all the concerts and money. And he was kind of like a managing in a way, but he was the most trusted to Don Shirley at the time. And when they taking this trip, Oleg, but here's one thing with Oleg. He never oversteps.
Yes.
He never pushes.
Mm-hmm.
He's extremely intelligent person and very content. Not to mention he grows up in a communist country, so he knows how to keep his cool. And that's the extraordinary part in this whole film is that it's what Peter wanted me to do is to be myself.
Yeah.
Because here's the funny part. When 1962, when this is taking place, when this whole story is happening, Oleg is 54 years old. When we were shooting the movie, I'm 54 years old.
Wow.
Oleg, his real name is Yuri Taht. He's half Jew, half Christian. But he was never recognized by either one because his mother was Christian. His father was a Jew.
Ah, okay.
So
yeah.
My father is a Christian, is a Jew, and my mother is a Christian.
Wow. Wow.
In my true life.
Wow.
My birth father is Jewish, and my birth mother is Christian. And I graduated the communist school of classical music as he did. And I defected to United States to have freedom to play music and play jazz and play everything I want and be an actor. So we had so much in common. And if you look at pictures, if you research pictures of Yuri Taht, there are maybe 2 or 3 pictures on the entire internet of this man. And look at my picture in the movie, which I wear actually the original glasses of Yuri Taht, 1962.
Wow.
You will think we are twin brothers.
Wow.
And that was the mishap between my first casting and my second casting. Because they didn't clearly knew who actually Yuri Taht is, that he's not a young guy. He's actually elder. He's older than both of them. And he's this Russian Jew musician, classical musician and all that, which I investigated during my preparation. And Nick Vallelonga has a joke, kind of comment during my audition when they asked me to talk about the character. So I give him all that I did research on. And then Nick started laughing and said, we wrote the script, you know more about the character than we do. So that was the little Nick Vallelonga. I love this man. He jokes all the time.
Yeah, and his kindness like yours. He gave me an opportunity to interview him, and when I know many people were asking, he granted. So I was very fortunate. You know, I want to say you mentioned the Christmas Carol when you first started. You know, A Christmas Carol is must watch around Christmas time. I feel like everybody, it makes it. You know, when Christmas time comes around, people must watch one of those movies. I feel like Green Book is also must watch. Right, instant classic. You cry your eyes out, you laugh your ass off, and it makes you think. And in this movie, my last question about Green Book is, you know, Christmas Eve dinner comes full circle. Tony and Dr. Shirley. Tony goes from putting those glasses of those African-American men that were working at his house in the trash to embracing Dr. Shirley at Christmas Eve dinner. Dr. Shirley goes from being alone and very private to going to Tony's dinner at the end at the Christmas Eve and embracing Tony. It comes full circle. Beautiful, beautiful. It'll be a long time before we see something like this again, Dimiter. A very special movie, as I told you, for a lot of reasons, and you're absolutely fantastic in it.
Well, Derek, to be honest, this exactly what you just said loops our conversation all the way to the beginning, because then you realize that Don Shirley in his heart and Tony Lip in his heart are those true people. Mm-hmm. But the environment and the way growing up in those different environments formed them to be what we see in the beginning of the movie. But in the end, we realize what their true heart is all about.
Yeah, well said. My last 2 things for you is you were in The Little Things. I thought I read an interview you gave, and you can answer this or you can pass on it. I'll leave it in your hands, where you worked with Denzel, and supposedly there's a handout actors receive when it comes to Denzel. Did you want to talk about that, or you want to pass on that? That's up to you.
Well, I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, we received this little list of things you do, you don't do. You cannot use your phone. You cannot approach him. You cannot ask any questions unless he's asking you, unless he's approaching you. And all those requirements, which once we start, it was kind of odd for me in the beginning because I never seen anything like this before. We're on location on 7th Avenue, Skid Row, the most dangerous area in this hotel. And all of a sudden, once we start working, I realize what it's all about. This is a genius artist who has his rules. And in order for him to be who he is, and in order for all of us to be able to partner with him, those are his rules. You have to respect. And once we start working, then I realize, oh my gosh, that's why. And it was very interesting. Yes, of course, it wasn't, let's say he walks in for the very first moment. Here I am right in front of him. He did not say hello. He did not say welcome, which is kind of odd. But he was so into, and he was talking to the director at the time and passing through talking. So I said, oh, okay, that'll be later. But then the work started going, and we were so in a hurry because of the location and all the danger of homeless people all around. We had a lot of police coverage and security. So he was coming in and out of the hotel all the time. And then in the end, because we were so pushing and rushing, he left without even saying goodbye. So basically, what I can say, I would give everything to work with this extraordinary actor again. He's legendary.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, right? But for me, on the outside, it seems weird.
I will remember that I never met him. I partnered with him, but I never met him as a person.
And the best stories, I feel like, Dimiter, are those stars, and I hear this all the time, that treat the extras the same way they treat the second person on the call list, right? So, and the list consists of things like can't look him in the eye, can't get close to him, can't greet him, can't ask questions, the phone was taken. It's just weird. To me, that's awkward. I get where you're coming from.
It is, Derek, it's awkward, but after 12 years in Hollywood, I've seen things.
I get it. Yep, I get it.
Some of those people that really get on your nerves and really distract, and they don't even realize. And mostly are people who are either the first, second time on set. They're overwhelmed, overexcited, and they think everything is buddy-buddy. No, it's a professional set. You need to have your boundaries. You have to have respect, discipline, and follow the rules.
No, yeah, that's right. We talked about that earlier. You're right. And the last thing is the Night Court. Is that the Night Court reboot? I saw that in your filmography.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic that you're in the first episode, right?
I am on the pilot, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it will be, picked up. And actually, very funny story. When I was in Tennessee, Night Court was playing every Thursday after Cheers. And this is the only TV show I can kind of understand what they're talking about. And I was recording it on VHS tape without the commercials. So the next day I'm watching it and I'm writing words down. And that's how I learned English, with that show. 30 years later, I'm cast in the reboot of that show.
Wow.
And I meet face to face with John Larroquette. And I was speechless. I was in tears. Not to mention the entire set, everything is completely the same. And of course, John Larroquette as funny as never before.
Oh, he's great.
And
legend.
Melissa, she is the daughter, as you know, Harry Anderson. She's taking on his role, and the show is hilarious. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for this show to be picked up. And if it does, I will be overwhelmed to continue, because as of now, my contract is recurring with option regular.
Oh, that's great. That is awesome. Fingers crossed. Quickly, you're teaching. You love teaching kids, like you and young adults, acting. Is that difficult to manage with your acting schedule?
Actually not. I owe much of what I do when it comes to teaching to Bernard Hiller. I was his first assistant for a while. I learned a lot from him in the theory of acting in Hollywood, which is extraordinary as a person. And then I started my own, which he encouraged to do. And with the Zoom nowadays, and I did quite a few classes live before the pandemic, but now with the Zoom, I have private students, I have group classes, and actually I have great successful stories that sometimes we can talk about. Even one of my students, she wrote She started only 2 years ago in acting, 26 years old.
Wow.
I walked her to the ABC into a point where she wrote her own short film, directed it, and the film was submitted to Cannes Festival this year.
Holy cow, that's fantastic.
And I'm so proud of her. It's one of my students, not to mention quite a few more already accepted at Berkeley, New York, Boston Academy, one of my students, first with full scholarship. And I have quite a few successful stories only in the last 3 years that I'm extremely proud of. And teaching for me is that main thing that I am in right now, giving it back.
I was just going to say paying it forward. Absolutely. That's who you are. Dimiter, I am so grateful that our paths crossed. Thank you, my friend. And I hope you come back.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. It will be an absolute pleasure to talk to you again. So many things to talk about.
Doc. Welcome.
Oh. Hey, everybody.
Stop it. Stop.
This is Dr. Donald Shirt.
Merry Christmas.
Being sung by choir.
Well, come on. Make some room. Get this man a plate.
Hello.
You must be Dolores.
Welcome.
Buona tarde. Thank you for sharing your husband with me.
Thank you for helping him with the lettuce.